Hello, everyone. I hope you are doing well. This is my messy office in case you haven't seen that yet. Um, so I've been working through your part one of the science writing assignment. Uh, some of those are great and you're good to go. Some folks need to go back and review some things. I've seen several assignments that used a news article instead of a peer-reviewed scholarly article, or I've seen some other kinds of sources that are not peer-reviewed scholarly science articles. So make sure you check the feedback that I provide on the assignment. If you need to find a new article, if you need to get in touch with me, please do that. Please don't wait too long. I don't want you to get behind on this assignment. So I have promised to show back up and talk a little bit more about APA, so I'll make good on that promise now. So APA, American Psychological Association format, is used sometimes in the sciences, is frequently used in the social sciences. So this isn't going away. We're going to continue working with this into our next unit. Now, in English 111, you learned MLA format, Modern Language Association. MLA format is mostly concerned with finding a specific piece of text, while APA documentation is concerned with currency. I talked about that some last week. In the sciences and social sciences, the recent information matters, and it's important to know if we're talking about research that's just been done or older research. So APA formatting looks a little bit different from MLA. So with MLA, you have the author's last name, comma, first name. You have, let's say we're working with a scholarly journal, you would have the journal title and the article title and quotation marks after that, and then the italicized journal title. APA does it differently. You have the author's last name and then the first initial. You have the year in parentheses. Then you have the name of the article, but in sentence case. So it's not italicized or in quotation marks. Only the first word and proper nouns are capitalized. And then you would have the italicized journal name like you're used to in some of the other things. Punctuation is a little different. And the in-text citations are different. In MLA, author's last name and page number. In APA, it's author's last name, comma, year, comma, P period, and then the page number. So APA has a lot more in the in-text citation. And that's really the biggest difference as far as the documentation is concerned. And I've noticed that a lot of folks seem to be using citation generators or pulling the automatic citation without checking them. When you get something like shibboleth authentication request listed as an author or an article title, that's a clear indicator that something has gone wrong. Shibboleth authentication request is not a journal. It is not an author's name. If you have that in your citation, that usually indicates that a citation generator has been used. So it's important if you use a citation generator or if you use the citations that are generated for you from one of the search engines or databases that you can check that. Treat it like grammar check, right? We can't rely on it, but it can sometimes be helpful. So I wanted to look at a source with you and kind of look at the parts and identify how to handle that. So let me share my screen real quick. My other screen. There we are. Okay, so I am on the library's website. So let's say that I wanted to look at maybe adaptogens and cognition. All right, so I'm going to go ahead to this very first source. And just as a quick review, I know you have your library activities this week, and I'm sure you've already looked at that information. Remember that over here you have your limiters. I checked peer-reviewed and I checked full text online. This isn't foolproof now. Sometimes you'll have some stuff sneak through that's not peer-reviewed. You can reduce the amount of years you're looking at. So if you want something from the last 5 years, you can do that. You can make something super current and just look at things from the last year. That often depends on your topic area. If you're looking at something in medicine, it may be necessary to move it to a more recent time. You can narrow by language, all sorts of things. So I've got this down to just 4 articles. Adaptogens are kind of a up and coming thing. So I'm going to look at this first article here eventually. Okay, so most everything I need for my citation is up here. So I've got authors' names. I have the title of the article right here. I have the name of the journal, the volume and the issue number, the year of publication, and the page number for the article. I like to look at the PDF. I find it a bit cleaner. You can send this to yourself. Over here you see there's the email option. You can download the PDF, you can print it, whatever works for you. I like to look at the PDF because that's the layout that you would see if it were printed there in the journal. With the PDF, you also get the specific page numbers. I just find it to be cleaner and easier to look at and focus on. It just works really well for me. So when you look at these articles, first of all, you have the abstract. The abstract is essentially a summary of the full piece. The abstract is there so that researchers, as they are going through to look at articles, can decide whether they need to do a deep dive or if they want to maybe skip this and move on to the next thing. Research takes time, and folks doing the research often don't have a lot of time. In the introduction of an article, you'll find some background information and typically a literature review or some sort of history of the topic. Then you'll often have a method section or a materials and methods section. This is where the way the study was carried out will be discussed precisely so that someone could carry that study out. Then you'll have your results and then your discussion. You'll see often tables. Frequently you'll see charts as well. One of the nice things about these electronic sources is that citations are often hyperlinked so that you can go to that source on the references page. Now, I mentioned, going with the automatic citation. So here, this is APA 6. I think we're in 7th now. I feel confident we're in 7th, but this is what we got. So looking at this, you see the author's last name and then the first initial, and that's inverted for all the authors. That's absolutely correct. I will mention that if there are degrees included, like PhD, etc., you leave those out. You don't need to include the degrees when you do your citations. That goes for MLA too. All right, so the only thing I see here that I need to fix, they are using title case, and we don't do that in an APA, a title on an APA references page. So I would change that to a lowercase a. And the rest of this looks correct. They have the DOI, the digital object identifier. Otherwise, this looks fine. But it's important to go in there and check. And I find that sometimes students kind of don't know where to look when they're looking at the article. So now that I am in the PDF, again, here's the title of the article. We've got the author's names here. We've got the name of the journal here. We've got the publication date here. And if you need the name of the journal or the volume, the issue, you can usually also find that at the top or bottom of the pages. And here you can see all of that. So I hope that kind of demystifies where you find the information and what the reference entry looks like. In MLA, we call them works cited entries. In APA, we call them references or reference entries. So then you have your in-text citation. So I'm going to pull a sentence or two. Let's see, I'll just pull one. I'm just going to pull this, not that this is, that's not really quote worthy. Let me pull something quote worthy. Okay. So let me come back to our whiteboard. All right. So let's say that I want to quote from this article that we've just taken a look at together. Now, you remember probably that the article had several authors. If you have two authors, you would list both their last names in the in-text citation, but because we have so many, we're going to use et al. To list them. So let's say I wanted to quote from this article. I might say something like, according to Todorova et al. And my formatting is going to be just a little bit weird because I copy and pasted. So, according to Todorova et al., although plant adaptogens have been used for centuries, their effects continue to be studied to this day. So, when you mention an author, you're going to put the year in parentheses behind them. Then I have my quote, and then I have my in-text citation. Now, if we didn't use the author's name in the sentence, let's see. Oh man, I used the wrong page number. That should be page 2. Here we go. Okay. So here, because I didn't use the author's name to introduce the quote or author's names, I have that here, then a comma, the year, and the page number. And that should be page 2. Always check your page numbers. All right. So remember that no quote should float. A quote should not be hanging out by itself in a sentence. You have to do something to anchor that quote in your text. So you need to introduce the quote or give it some context. You can't just have it sitting there by itself alone in a sentence. You also need to maintain correct grammatical structure of your sentence even when you're bringing in a quote. So keep all of that in mind as you're working on these. Remember the difference between quoting and paraphrasing. Quoting is word for word and enclosed in quotation marks. Paraphrasing is when you keep the author's idea, but you use your own words and your own sentence structure. It's still cited. So that's just kind of a quick refresher on APA in-text citation and reference entry. Since we're working with scholarly articles, you're typically going to have all of that publication information. You may be working with an article that doesn't have page numbers, and in that case, you would just leave those out. So that's kind of the short of it. There are, of course, resources in our APA folder. Your textbook does a good job of walking through APA, so definitely use those resources. When you create a references page for this article, for this essay, you're probably only going to have this one source, right? When you have multiple sources, you'll still alphabetize them by whatever is first. Remember to use a hanging indent. You're still going to double space. A lot of the rules you were using before with MLA still apply. So don't get too worked up. I'm providing feedback to everybody. If you have questions or need help with this, let me know. If there's something you need me to cover in terms of APA citation or something else, let me know. So I will be back with more information soon. I hope this is helpful. Please let me know how I can assist.